Imagine you started making a game and then you decided, what if I make a game inside of that game?
Hey Reece, sorry to interrupt your video, but I just wanted to let you know I already made a game that's a lot like that, so you'll be hearing from my lawyer soon. That's all.
Never mind that. This is how we made a game for our player to play inside of our game. For those of you that are new here, I'm currently developing an open world monster catcher game with resource collection, exploration, and team-based battling. The game is super fun, don't get me wrong, but the other day I had a conversation with my friend Goodgis about chows in the Sonic adventure games. We talked about why we love this game so much, and to keep it brief, we discovered that the reason the chows were so much fun to play with is mainly due to the fact that chows are just a side game inside of an already existing good game. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that having Chow Rancher Deluxe 3D Adventure Time wouldn't be hella fun. It's just that it gives its own excitement as it never feels like it gets stale or overplayed. In order to advance in the minigame, you need to play through the main game, which constantly changes up the gameplay loop. There are many other examples of this that you can find in video games, like for example, the abundance of different side games that you find in Final Fantasy games, and the card game Gwent from The Witcher 3. With this in mind, I felt it absolutely necessary to drop everything I'm currently doing with the Kickstarter and the trailer for the game, and spend 24 hours making a side minigame you can play in Monster Tribe. The first thing to do was to create an actual building we can have our arcade game exist in. I've been putting off creating the main laboratory structure for some time now, so yeah, I guess we'll just create the entire main building to progress the game for this one stupid side minigame. We start with the basic shape for the first floor, adjust the colors a bit, and then another team member, Shay, took this concept and attempted to create a mock-up of what the lab will look like completed. It's a little hard to read, no offense Shay, but it gets the point across. We have a main building in the middle with two extension structures on the sides. Taking it back to my concept sketch, we add the left building, and now we add details starting with the bottom, then adding more detail to the second floors, and finally we get the finished look of our main two building pieces. I swear I spent half the creation time literally just trying to figure out how I should put the windows on these buildings. I didn't end up creating the third structure, which is exactly where the minigame room is supposed to go, but it was just really confusing me on how to draw it, and I already spent a few hours making this concept, so I'll procrastinate it and do it eventually when I find some free time to work on this in the future. Now that we have our building, the next step is to create an object for our game to exist in. I put together a quick time lapse of me trying my best at creating an arcade machine in a new pixel art style. Because this is for the minigame, I wanted it to stick out from the regular game, so I attempted an isometric style as I want to do the same thing for the arcade game. I rarely ever try different art styles, so here is my first real attempt at creating isometric pixel art. Okay, we have a building for our game to exist in, a machine to operate the game. Now it's time to actually create the game. As I mentioned earlier, my schedule is really compact with everything going on at the moment. The past few weeks, I have been consistently working between 50 to 70 hours on getting everything ready for the Kickstarter, keeping a consistent schedule here on YouTube, developing my skills as an artist, and working out company details. So only having 24 hours to complete this minigame, we are just getting a proof of concept for the time being. We'll expand on the idea as Monster Tribe develops, so with this in mind, we had to figure out an idea we could execute quickly and efficiently while not taking away from the actual fun of the game. Personally, I find these side minigames to be a lot more fun when the controls are simplistic, easy to grasp, and fast to jump in and out of the gameplay. Originally, I was thinking of creating some kind of snake-like game where you start with one monster and collect more monsters to power up your lineup while avoiding enemy hazards. But I didn't feel this idea was unique enough to feel like a fully finished concept, so I decided to drop some of the artwork first and then go back to the game idea later. I wanted to focus the minigame on the monsters, as the main game you are primarily just interacting with NPCs until you enter an actual battle. So why not go back to trying out more of this isometric art style and create some of the monsters you will find in the game in a new style. The only idea I had in mind was that I wanted this game to be based around the elements of the playable monsters, so I decided on taking 3 of the 6 in-game elements, being fire, water, and nature, and pulling monsters with those typings to create different playstyles. Here are some of the fire creatures I ended up using, the playable water monsters, and of course, the nature monsters. I really liked the look of this, so with that, I threw them into a concept art, putting them on an isometric island. Shay and I worked on the idea, and after a few hours of brainstorming, we came up with the full concept of the game. In short, the elements are disrupting the lands. You play as the spirit guide who will accompany you on your main story missions to run around collecting gems and just trying to survive the time limit until the elements calm down for you to progress to a new area and different levels. The island will be much larger than this concept to account for the many monsters that will live on the island, but the monsters will be more like armies of their species rather than one of each creature. You will use the resources collected in the main game as points for upgrading your monsters' armies, allowing you to obtain new special attacks for each species and gathering more units to last longer in battles and attack more often. The monsters are trying to get rid of all the hazards to keep your main protagonist alive during the minigame, so yeah, that's kind of the point of the monsters. Fish resources will be used to upgrade the water units, wood for the nature monsters, and ores for the fire armies. The rarer the resources used, the more points towards leveling that unit will count for, so technically the game would be a little bit less grindy the farther you are through the main story mode of the game. We'll be sure to balance this so that people could technically just play through the entire side game from start to finish as soon as they acquire all 3 tools, or you could play through the game a little bit faster if you discover this after completing the story mode, or again, the primary method being just something that you can progress through naturally over time as you play through the game as a whole. We brought the concept into GameMaker, importing all of our sprites, creating a background, then we add in the monsters, the playable character, our hazards, a timer, and the special ability UI. Wait a minute, did I forget to explain special abilities? Well, in short, you'll be able to use the different elemental spirit mutations to blink the screen, destroying all hazards of the specified type. Enter the Gungeon's blank mechanic is probably the closest thing, so yeah, think about something like that. And a non-elemental ability to turn your spirit guide invincible momentarily to avoid incoming projectiles. So I just finished the gameplay loop, and I just decided that I think the game would be a lot better if, instead of just trying to keep the player alive, I think it would be really interesting if we also tried to keep at least one of your monsters alive as well before the timer runs out. I played the game in this way and it was actually really fun. So I want to do something like this where it's more of like a, herding sheep type situation where you're trying to control things, but you can't really. So I'll expand the idea in the future. We still have a lot of stuff to do, but I really, really like this gameplay loop now. As I said, this is just the basic concept of the game, and we will have to expand this idea with new levels, more hazards, difficulty scaling, and unit leveling in the future. But for one day, I think we can count this as a success. Guys, the minigame is really cool, but we have been working our asses off to make the finished Kickstarter trailer and the actual Kickstarter page in the background. So without spoiling too much, here are a few visuals I drew up for the Kickstarter campaign. You gotta meet the team section, our rewards tiers simplified down to a title, and some of our potential stretch goals. The campaign is set to be 15,000 Canadian or 11.8 thousand USD. But again, this is the biggest project I have ever developed, so we are putting everything we've got into this, and with your help, we want to absolutely crush this initial funding goal. People have been asking me on my development live streams on why we are actually doing a Kickstarter, so we made a section on it, which I will quickly read through now. For us, Kickstarter was a very natural path to take for the creation of Monster Tribe. We've put a lot of effort into establishing a fan base of our own through the YouTube channel, other social media platforms, and the Monster Tribe Devlog series. We've received a ton of love from the very first concept video that has kept strong through the months of development. This showed us that we were onto something bigger than we had ever done before. In order to provide our new fans with something as great as we initially conceived, we knew we needed some support for things like high quality art, music, and honestly to just sink as much time into this project as possible. With all the support that we had garnered, we couldn't let down all the people who were waiting in anticipation, and we had a powerful drive to see the finished form of the project we've been building in our heads for years. With the money that we hope to raise, we will throw everything we've got into making sure that we build a game that goes beyond even our original hopes and dreams. We hope that you all will be blown away by what we managed to create. I'm putting my heart and soul into this project, and we need all the help we can get to make this the biggest game and/or franchise we possibly can. Thank you so much for watching the videos and showing interest in the game. I read and answer pretty much every comment I get and try really hard to create the best relationship with you guys I possibly can, as I just deeply appreciate everyone's support. It's time for you guys to give me a hand and help out in any way you can when the Kickstarter launches April 15th, 2021. Whether that be in backing the game with your hard-earned money, or just sharing the game's campaign with your friends and family that might want to help out. Spreading the word is more important than you guys could imagine, so I just wanted to say thank you everybody, and I hope you are as excited as we are for the launch of the Kickstarter and the development of Monster Tribe. I hope you guys are ready for next week's video and all the future content I'll be working on. I constantly try and put my best foot forward in everything I'm passionate about, including my videos. Let's make this a part of our history as a strong community and do everything we can to make the biggest success possible. Yeah, I mean, here, editing the video, and literally out of nowhere, I just decide like, hey, I think that this game would be cooler if instead of just, protecting, god damn it.